Hey, Star Thrill enthusiasts, I'm Jerry Dan Goldman, and today we've got a gripping story that set tongues wagging across the Western Hemisphere. Our very own Tucker Carlson, the man who always dances to his own beat, has taken a bold step into the lion's den. Yes, he's gone one-on-one with none other than Vladimir Putin, the controversial leader of Russia. Now, why on earth would Tucker be interviewing this despot, as some call him? Western powers are uneasy, questioning why Tucker, with the largest audience platform, is giving Putin a voice. After all, Putin's track record, especially with the Ukraine war, doesn't exactly make him a Western favorite. But hold on, folks. What does Putin have to say about the Ukraine war that's sending shivers down the spines of Western powers? Is there misinformation or an inaccurate narrative that needs correcting? In war, controlling the narrative is crucial to garnering support back home. Tucker's not just any journalist. He's a force to be reckoned with. You see, Tucker Carlson can't be tamed. He was even pushed out of Fox News for being too powerful. But guess what? Elon Musk came to the rescue, providing a platform for Tucker to continue his fearless storytelling. Now, with this Russia adventure, Tucker is pushing the limits even further. Oh, but the drama doesn't stop there. European authorities are considering sanctions on Tucker over the Putin interview. The question is, why the uproar? Is Tucker merely shedding light on the untold stories of the Ukraine war, or is there something more sinister at play? Tucker alleges that the Biden administration spied on his communications to prevent the Putin interview.
Almost 3 years ago, the Biden administration illegally spied on our text messages and then leaked the contents to their servants in the news media. They did this in order to stop a Putin interview that we were planning. Last month, we're pretty certain they did exactly the same thing once again. But this time, we came to Moscow anyway.
The White House calls it ridiculous. In his defense, Tucker insists on the American public's right to understand the Ukraine war. But do we really need his take, considering the media's role in presenting a balanced view?
We're in Moscow tonight. We're here to interview the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. We'll be doing that soon. There are risks to conducting an interview like this, obviously, so we've thought about it carefully over many months. Here's why we're doing it. First, because it's our job. We're in journalism. Our duty is to inform people. 2 years into a war that's reshaping the entire world, most Americans are not informed. They have no real idea what's happening in this region, here in Russia or 600 miles away in Ukraine. But they should know. They're paying for much of it.
Let's hear what his fellow journalists have to say about this interview.
Is that I'm a little bit of like the old school rules about, remember the Time Person of the Year? It wasn't about whether they were a good guy or a bad guy. It was whether they were impactful, right? So therefore, whether they're good guys or bad guys, you still want to sit down and talk to them. What happens in the interview? Okay, we'll all wait and watch and make our own decision. But the freak out at somebody even going to Moscow to interview him, I find quite odd, Megan.
So sick of this nonsense. I mean, back in my day, we were allowed to interview the bad guys. It wasn't a shock to see a journalist across from a bad guy. I watched Mike Wallace in what was called Murderer's Row on 60 Minutes because they were all so tough. Interviewed the Ayatollah of Iran. I watched him interview the head of the KKK wearing a white hood. The guy was in the hood in the interview. Diane Sawyer, another person I greatly admire, interviewed Jeffrey Dahmer, who murdered people and then ate them. That was not a bridge too far for Americans to see as an interview. Charles Manson, one of the most notorious murderers in American history. She sat down across from him. I don't know when the new rule got handed down that we only get to interview the good guys.
Do you think Tucker is wise? Do you think he's wise going to Moscow and doing a sit down with Putin?
He's incredibly wise, and he is also not just wise, he's brave. There obviously has been a lot of lies sold to us. You can just go back and look at what the mainstream media was saying on the first day that Russia invaded Ukraine. It's much of their emotional engineering. People didn't understand what was happening, but we were told that we just have to be okay with billions of dollars going overseas. And this is what I refer to as the political commentariat, where they're controlling your ideas, but you actually don't have access to true information. They're not telling you what the other president that's involved in this conflict is saying. If you dare to share that information, you're being called a Putin puppet. It's pointedly ridiculous. Yeah. We need more information. In America, we believe in this radical idea of free speech. And Tucker Carlson doing that interview, conducting it despite the fact that the NSA was spying on him, spying on his text messages, trying to prevent that from happening. Seeing the way that they are reacting, reading news today that the EU is considering sanctioning Tucker Carlson regarding an interview that they have not even seen, is all you need to know that the majority of the news that you are watching is bought and paid for, and they work to serve the state. And Tucker Carlson has gotten around that, and every individual should watch this interview, not because you should agree with everything that Putin says, but because you should hear different sides and come to conclusions after researching what both sides are saying.
At Star Thrill, we believe in challenging the status quo. Maybe, just maybe, it's time for the Western world to hear the side of the story directly from the so-called despot himself. And who better to manage and control the narrative than the untamed Tucker Carlson? Stay tuned, thrill seekers, as we delve deeper into this intriguing saga. Until next time, this is Jerry Dan Goldman, signing off from Star Thrill.